So what we did is we just pulled together 10 programs for you and thought we could show them to you so you get a sense of what's there. Away we go. So obviously Learn to Save the Titanic is one of the most popular programs. What's got Save the Titanic expanding really quickly right now is that we have an augmented reality version of it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So when you get an outcome from the cards, so each action has an outcome on a card. The cards are now visual, and the team puts an iPad over the card, and they see a live person from Titanic share the information with them.
Wow,
It's
cool.
the first augmented reality corporate learning experience in the world, and it's really quite cool. So the Titanic program itself is obviously immersive. The participants are in hats and life jackets. The facilitators are all in uniform. The teams do all the actions themselves. And at the end of the experience, they get to talk through what they learned and how they apply it to their business. So the whole focus of the program is really around experiencing leadership, team, communication, and strategy all at the same time. And then what does your team do? And to make it more immersive, obviously, there's the visuals, the sound effects, but watching the participants watch their telegram come to them, and it's literally filmed on the exact same class of boat as Titanic from the same time period. So it's very cool. So that one's very popular right now because of the augmented reality. Everybody wants to be cool. Every team gets an iPad. They're walking around the room. You look down into the ship. It's very cool. The second one that's very immersive.
Per participant price tag, or what's the structure here?
I'll leave that to Sam. I don't know. I think it's per participant, depending on the size of the group.
Okay.
So the next one is called Lead the Endurance, and I don't think you guys have ever been through this one. We designed it originally for Deloitte. Basically, you follow the journey of Ernest Shackleton's team across Antarctica. It's the greatest leadership story ever told. We have some props and things that go along with it because we typically chill the room down. And it basically walks through the program from the selection of your crew and how you pick people on your team, and then walks through 6 specific leadership insights on Shackleton's journey with the Endurance, and we tailor it all the time to different groups. It's primarily leadership, so it would be manager level and up. It's fairly intense learning experience, highly immersive. There's visuals, sound effects, costuming, and it's very much like Titanic from an immersive experience, and then leadership is the main focus. We've run it through every level. We change it depending on the level. The main things are, how do you pick your team? What are the skills and attributes you're looking for? How do you find them? Then what's your big picture? So how do you take all the things that are going on inside the organization and connect them together so you can communicate the big picture to your team? Then how do you help your team dump their baggage around money, time, challenges in the business? Then we usually break off. We have a number of different experiences that come into it after that, because those 3 we typically run, I would say 90% of the time, and then it branches off into a number of different exercises, some of them more physical and some of them about morale. How do you raise morale? How do you keep morale up? How do you get a team to achieve results even though there are things in the way?
That would be good for a store manager as well, right?
Very good for store managers. We've run it for store managers. They love it. Usually on our store manager side, what we do is we set up a game on retail that we're going to coach up the bottom half of their employees. So we have a retail sales results program. Anybody who's under halfway moves up within 90 days to the halfway point, and then we start raising the bar, and they have an 80-day to bringing them up to speed, otherwise they move out. So we have a whole methodology on the retail store side, because we've had clients add, I think one of them added $24 million to the bottom line that way.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of experience in that space. Which this one works too for store managers. So this is Bridge the Gap. I brought some photos. We've run this for you guys a couple times. You can see inside, everyone's in a construction environment. Some people have leadership roles, and they end up wearing vests and things like that. They love it. What they end up building is a structure to roll an egg down it. So relatively simple concept. What ends up happening is we look at the planning phase, the construction phase, and the implementation phase, and then we take them through an experience where they actually plan out where they are and where they want to get to, and they eliminate all the roadblocks and build out all the projects to implement. So they end up with usually 12 months, sometimes 24 or 36-month calendar of literally every project and everything that has to happen to be able to crush their results. Okay. So we use that one team simulation at the beginning where the egg is like the customer, and they have this sort of fun, participatory, engaging experience, yet in the end, they build this plan from A to Z to achieve the results. We run that one in retail a lot, especially with store managers. And for like Reitman's group, we had all the store managers across all the product lines like Suzy Shear and Smart Set and Additional and Pennington's. We had all the leaders and all the store managers in the same room, and we built a plan to take Reitman's to $500 million in sales, and we built it to achieve it in a year, and they did. So yeah, very cool.
Okay.
The next one is quite popular. So that's a tent cards, basically the 4-color process. It's called Naturally. Everybody has a natural approach. We do a Sell Naturally program that focuses in on how you work with buyers. Buyers have a way they want to buy. So rather than doing sales training, teaching people to sell, what we do is we help them understand how their buyer buys. Much different. Yes, there are sales techniques inside of it and all those pieces, yet it's really focused on how do I get my buyer what my buyer needs to buy, especially when my buyer might be different from me. And I like to make choices one way, and they make choices a different way. So that one also, the most popular version is Communicate Naturally. We've run this through a lot of retail. Well, we're up over a couple million people through this program. There are props, different colors in the room. We now do captures. There's an app coming. There's a book that's already been written that just needs to get into the works. And it's one of our big ones. We have 12 programs based on this approach. So you can do Lead Naturally, Team Naturally, Serve Naturally for restaurant servers or venue servers. Reward and Recognize Naturally, Appreciate Naturally, Lead, So handle objections naturally, handle resistance naturally. There are a bunch of them. So for a client that you want to have them and they want to invest in sort of an operating system, and you want to keep them over the long run, this is a nice thing because in that first session, they're learning about themselves, and then everything after that is how do they lead, how do they serve, how do they do customer service. And so it becomes a vocabulary across the organization.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Another one.
That you make me feel.
Pardon me?
That's the one that you make me feel, the questionnaire.
Yes, you got it. And it helps me understand who you are. So I'm moving pretty fast for you, and I just wanted to kind of give you a top line, and then we can talk about it. So profit from change is an implementing change simulation. So it is primarily about achieving specific results. So we have a few gamified pieces in this. If you get the leader of the organization to implement the change, you get a gold ring, get access to the club, you get prizes along the way. The way it works is you have all these team members in the organization, and your job is to get them to adopt change, so to actually implement. We run it based on a series of outcome cards, and it's quite a clever design that works around a flow chart that flows through knowing what to do next, so that the participants in the room have a very unique experience. Basically, this program is very helpful. We did it for you guys for Transglobe Media, where the HR team was implementing a change. And they needed to get their heads wrapped around, how do you implement change? What gets in the way? How do you get people to move from awareness through trial into adoption? How do you get some people who are a little more change averse to step in? So we focus on the tactics and the timing of the tactics, and then the group builds their own playlist for their change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's again, highly participatory, of course. There's a strong theme to our programs. So this is another award winner. Titanic's won an award. A bunch of them have won awards. This is one we designed for Rogers. So this is an onboarding game that replaced 5 days of onboarding training.
Okay.
And we designed it for them. Everything follows through on their sales process and their personas for their clients. And basically every card has questions. We have a leader's guide, and the company runs it themselves. Onboarding's one of those specialties that very few people do and do well. This is the Learn2 one that takes people through, and we build these out for clients so that their onboarding experience for their employees is cool. Much better. Yeah.
Customize this one.
We do. We build it out very specifically for every client. We usually start from a starting point. Like we'll pick.
You have a framework that you can just adapt to.
C'est ça. Yep. Same with profit from change. So we've, for Ericsson, for you guys, they wanted to use their change model. So we took their change model in and we pushed it through our design so that their, I forget, I think it was the 6 Ds of change. We followed their model using our experience. So they had done 4 or 5 days talking about the model, and everyone said that we had them for a day. They were like, that day was all about our actual model, and we figured out how it works and how to implement it and what will get in the way. So this one's really popular. It's typically a secondary, like they've usually done a program with us. Oh, there's some of the French ones. So in this, what the group does, it's called handle resistance. We have a handle resistance naturally, where these are all color coded to the 4 different colors in the natural system. But they, in handle resistance naturally, what they do is they figure out the worst resistance they get in the organization, either to a change, to a role, just naturally as a leader, or we have it actually started out as a sales program because it started as handle objections, but it was so popular the salespeople started handling the objections of the sales managers. And so the sales managers at Johnson & Johnson came back and said, like, well, wait a sec, our salespeople are working our managers using this technique. Can you teach it to the sales managers? And I was like, I guess so. So we ran a very similar process, and it worked so well. This one's actually even more popular now because I think there's more people doing how do you handle resistance. So it's a simple 2-step process where people learn how to acknowledge where someone's coming from and then ask a forwarding question that re-engages them in conversation. It's based on a bunch of how the brain works and the amygdala and how people get triggered, which we can take them through if we have time. But the fundamental outcome of this is they get a job aid of all the resistance and then how to handle it. So we run it a lot. There's a bunch of different things that happen inside of it, which won't make a ton of contextual sense to you right now. But the key on that one is leaders' confidence transforms when they feel like they know how to handle the resistance. Because when they're getting the pushback, they start selling and convincing and trying to get people to do things instead of just stopping, really listening, acknowledging where they're coming from. And we have a methodology for that. And then asking a forwarding question so they're not going into the resistance. And there are a bunch of distinctions in there that are very valuable.
Okay.
Yeah. So another one. So we have I love it. It's got the cover off. So we have a number of leadership programs at various levels. So we have 31 days of sales training. We have a couple weeks of leadership development. One of the main things we've done is taken leadership development and focused on tools. So whenever there's a group of leaders together, we understand where they're struggling, and then we give them tools that they can immediately apply. So here's an example of a tool set. So there are seven cards here. So this covers off the business, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity that lives in the business, how to ask questions about it, how to solve it. Then there's grow coaching, so goal, reality, options, way forward, all the questions you need. This is a cornerstone habit as a leader to be asking these kinds of questions. And then grow extends into conflict resolution, challenging behavior, giving feedback, delegating, and then we usually help them identify those SCARF triggers that I talked about earlier in handle resistance. And SCARF are status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness, which are the main things that get humans triggered. So when a human gets triggered, that's where they resist. That's where they push back. That's where they say no. So the more the leaders understand what to do and the questions to ask when they're in there, the better able they are to be able to go through. So there's a 2-day leadership program, basically in 7 cards. Comes with a manual, and at the director level, they work through their value chain and how they add value to the business. This core piece we have a manager level, we have a senior manager level, we have a director level, we have a director to VP level called $1 Million Leadership Challenge. And a $1 Million Leadership Challenge, they pay us $250,000. We coach them every 2 weeks. They have 6 live session days, and they implement projects, and we track them in our software to be able to audit the impact on the business. And that group of leaders delivers a minimum of $1 million back to the bottom line of the business. So that system of leadership programs allows us to go in and engage some of the largest companies in Canada to take not just a program, but their entire leadership development hierarchy in the business. And that's what we've done in Canada. The last program can be any size. We agree when they start the program, we make a promise that we can prove that they deliver $1 million minimum to the bottom line. Otherwise, we have to keep working with that group until they do. So it's because for every dollar they give us, we promise to give a minimum of $4 back to their business on projects that are not currently being implemented now. The reality is that after the dozen or so that we've run, every group has delivered substantially more than $1 million. So the return rates are substantially higher. And then inside that leadership hierarchy, there are specific programs like Drive the Flow is it's not bad for you guys because it's all building Lego cars, and they build these Lego cars to figure out how to improve the work flowing through the organization, and then we track the impact of their projects on that. RBC did 21,000% return on their investment and rolled it out to 6 divisions because they got 21,000% return on their investment. So it's nice for someone like you or us because it goes from being a one-off program. We started in pilot. They were like, they went out to look for a workflow program. They couldn't find one. They came to us and said, can you build this? And we said, sure, we can build anything. So we built it for them, and then they piloted it, and the first group had ridiculous impact. And they were like, okay, how quickly can we roll this out in French and English across Canada? So it's great because it moves from being a one-off, $50,000 opportunity into being substantially more. We have more programs and we have more being added every day. So we have a new in that's around people really appreciating where other people are coming from. We have the KWT process, so that's for tracking innovation inside the organization for your client to prove that they're having a bottom line impact. And that's a career defining relationship because they go from running these soft programs into saying, yeah, we ran that soft program, here's what we did, and here's the economic impact on the business. And now all of a sudden your client gets a double level promotion, gets a lot more budget. And so that's coming out soon. You'll see an augmented reality and race from us very soon. We're thinking we might do it for this summer, but I think we're going to end up filming it and doing it all this summer so we can sell it just to the general public. Yeah, there's a lot of people here. We're also sales team certification. So that's probably one of our biggest product lines right now, run by Deb. So we have all the Bell Business Markets teams, and they're literally going from hiring through to onboarding into our development system that proves that they have the product knowledge and can produce the result. So we're doing a ton of that. Yeah, there's lots. So anytime you've got a client, if you can describe a bit of what they're looking for, we can give you some really nice options. Sam will be able to find all those for you. And if you want to put us on the phone, we'll describe them and help you close the business.